Let's talk about what happened in the early morning hours first, when the police seemed more focused on fabricating a narrative to detain me under the Mental Health Act than responding to the situation with integrity and the morals they claim they have. They couldn't legally detain me for panic or anxiety alone, so they had to falsify the claim I was suicidal and homicidal, which I can clearly prove was untrue. Even their own reports with the hospital and themselves, the facts, I've placed it together, even my own video. They manipulate facts and distort the truth to serve their own agenda. It was calculated and unjust. I'm someone who lives by principles. I believe in helping others and standing up for justice. That's my nature. But what I've seen from the Halton Regional Police and their legal team is the opposite of morals or justice. These are public servants, paid by taxpayers, yet their action shows a complete disregard for ethics. For the first time, I truly understand the call to defund the police, something I never supported until what happened to us on May 13, 2024. Being my ignorance of not knowing how deceptive the police really are. It was true what happened to us in investigating, and people like Mad Lab Press, which I sincerely thank him for stepping away from law enforcement because his morals wouldn't allow him to be a part of such a corrupt system. That kind of courage is rare, and I truly applaud Mad Lab Press about that. Now consider this. What happens when someone like Wayne, a veteran who served 25 years in the military and suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, hires a lawyer to help, but that lawyer does nothing? Wayne told me he just didn't have it in him to fight. And I do know there are many people like that are the same. I come from a professional background in management escalations where I was trained to analyze facts, go over details, and back up everything with evidence. Unfortunately, my mind doesn't stop analyzing to this day when something happens like this. It even physically hurts me. While writing and, doing documentation and putting facts together, I literally feel dizzy, have to sit down, and I usually end up lying down from feeling dizzy, from going through all the corruptions and placing them, to show and to fight not just for Wayne and I, but for everybody in the future and even in the past. What scares me is Sergeant Ferrono. Literally, he also blatantly lies and assaults people right on their same police cruiser video. How many other people has he done it to? How does the Crown, seeing this, try to also wiggle their way into protecting him? My sleep is broken. I lay awake thinking about the corruption we've experienced at the hands of the people who claim to serve and protect. They talk about morals, but their actions tell a different story. When Wayne hired Mustafa from WTL, he was reassured that this lawyer would take his case personally, but later we learned that this is something Mustafa tells everyone. I submitted detailed evidence and videos to support Wayne's case. Time dated everything. And no one at that law firm even reviewed it. In fact, prior they even admitted they don't even care about reviewing it. 3 different lawyers from that office law firm. Can you believe it? They just read the police disclosure and told him he'll never win. Even if the police were lying, you just don't win the system. Because once they have your money, that's all that matters to them. Meantime, the Crown Attorney saw clear evidence that Wayne had been assaulted by Sergeant Ferrono. I even gave other videos, went into detail, because he was also assaulted when they took him back to the police station a second time by Sergeant Ferrono. And I have the video of his injuries too that I've posted prior. I have proof that not only they fabricated, tampered, everything. Let me make it clear. Lawyers can be corrupt too. The system is not for the public. Wayne sent an email the very same day that the audio that I'm going to play for you, saying he did not want to plead guilty. But they pressured him into pleading guilty for their reduced charge, which is dangerous driving. I watched him, hands were sweating, his face getting flushed and panicking. I recorded part of the conversations as I was in it too, sitting right there, and the lawyer knew. Wayne was in such a state he couldn't even remember what the word coerce mean. He couldn't really even think, but that's what was happening. He was being coerced into pleading guilty. The level of fear and confusion they induced on him. The police, Halton police, their disclosure was a trying to claim that they verified Wayne was a completely different man, a different race, a different criminal. The other man had a huge criminal background. Wayne has no criminal background. And you know what? They even wrote to the UK police trying to get a background check, hoping that he will have a criminal background to, see if they could back up some of their lies. But Wayne had a completely clean record, as I stated. Still, they persisted in pretending they verified he was someone else, a person with a long list of violent crimes. All while Wayne was serving in the British military. In the UK, that man they claimed he was born in Halifax and was never in Britain, and his crimes were committed in Canada. Now, great police work. Thumbs up. Is that what the public is subject to? This isn't just misconduct. This is criminal behavior by law enforcement. The Halton police didn't just lie. They covered up for each other, backed one enough, and worked to bury the truth. Even Chief Tanner saw the evidence. He had the opportunity to forward it to external investigations and instead chose silence. On Glassdoor, you'll find reviews from other officers saying how the force is more ran like a cartel than a police service. Wayne still suffers every day from what's happened. Even though, something has to be done. How many people will be set up by the Halton Regional Police or any of the police forces, Toronto, Ontario? It is more like a cult. Something has to be done, and we all have to speak up till one day someone listens and puts an end to cover-ups internally by police forces in Canada.
To the clerk of the court, for your honor, but for today's purposes and for the purpose of today's plea, I am attending as counsel, and I can certainly ensure that our paralegals are apprised of the rules with regards to their rights of appearance before any future appearances.
Do you have the information, please? Thank you. I have single count information here, 320.13, dangerous. I think that's the information the Crown's proceeding with respect to. I'm sorry, Your Honor, is there a dangerous before the court? Yes. Okay, yes, then but that's the single count. There's a two-count information as well. Is the crime proceeding with respect to this information? To the impaired, no. No. Okay. So that's information loss for 1018, Mr. Kawhi. Have you had an opportunity to go through the plea inquiry with Mr. Donahue relative to that count?
Your Honor, all the facts that I have signed, plea instructions, I can advise Your Honor that Mr. Donahue understands that by pleading guilty today, he's giving up a number of rights, but first and foremost his right to a trial. He understands that no matter what the criminal position and the defense's position, that the ultimate sentencing authority belongs to Your Honor and Your Honor alone. He understands that despite this being a joint position, that Your Honor has that final say. He understands that joint positions are to be given great consideration, but they do not always need to be followed. He is a foreign citizen, Your Honor. He understands and has had an opportunity to seek the relevant immigration advice with regards to this matter. There are not anticipated to be any immigration consequences with the joint position as proposed. That being said, he is aware that if Your Honor departs from that there could be immigration consequences. And he is aware of any ancillary consequences that are going to come from certainly discharge being visible on a criminal record, but additionally if a conviction is registered on there as well. Knowing all of this, he is choosing to plead guilty to the count of dangerous driving voluntarily and on an informed basis. Mr. Donahue, did you hear all of what I just stated?
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused. You guys told me there would be no criminal record if I pleaded to the dangerous driving.
Right, so let me explain that in a bit more detail for the purposes of the plea comprehension inquiry. So Mr. Donahue, you understand that as a conditional discharge is the joint position. You understand that there would not be any permanent conviction registered on your criminal record, but that a conditional discharge can still show up on certain searches for a period of time. Right, and so a conditional discharge wouldn't have the same sort of immigration consequences. You understand that, and you're choosing to plead guilty voluntarily knowing that?
Yeah, I just want to clear up. You said it wouldn't affect my immigration status when I try and get permanent residency.
No, Your Honor, could we, I apologize for this, would you be able to place us in a breakout room?
Yeah.
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you, Your Honor, I apologize.
Now things are changing.
How's M15 doing?
Afternoon, Mr. Donahue. So, yes, a conditional discharge does not count as a conviction. It's a bit of it's a complicated thing in legal sentencing. So a discharge involves a finding of guilt made by the judge, right? So it still involves a guilty plea, but it doesn't count as what's called a conviction. So what that means for your purpose is that it doesn't show up as a conviction. So when we say that there's no criminal record, what we mean is that there is no conviction entered on your criminal record, right? That being said, when people do certain searches, so for example, if you try to work in a vulnerable sector within Canada, you try to become a personal support worker, or you try to become, work in an old age home or something like that, you have to do vulnerable sector checks, right? Vulnerable sector checks will still see a conditional discharge for a period of 3 years. But because it doesn't count as a conviction, it doesn't affect any sort of immigration matters, and it doesn't count as what's called a permanent criminal record. Okay. It disappears automatically from all record searches after that period of time.
Okay then, because I'm beside anyways.
Can I I just wanted to intervene. He really is innocent, and the police did set him up, and I'm just saying this, for the lawyer, they released him
when they had him the morning, I'm just saying this, when they had him in the morning, they never did a sobriety test, and or else he never drives drunk or intoxicated, and even the evidence, it's really saddening that this is what the law is. But yeah, I just wanted to say that because he really is innocent. But go ahead, sorry, I just had to say that.
So,
it's really sad.
One of you, do you wish to plead guilty today? You understand that I'm getting to the fact that you are operating a conveyance dangerously.
He's gonna say it, but but you really are innocent.
So, Mr. Donahue, if that should be mentioned, I would ask your wife certainly not to be saying things like that you're innocent in court.
No, I haven't said that in court, obviously, because I've been sitting there, but I'm just saying it to you.
That's fine. If you're talking to me, and if you just want to talk to me, that's fine.
Yeah, and that's why.
We hear that if you say anything of this on the record, that that's what Canada will do.
Of course, but because I know it's between us, right? That's why I'm saying it to you. That he is innocent. That's why I know it's between us.
Yes.
Mr. Donahue, once we go back in, I'll just ask you a couple of questions, and I'll be asking you if you're pleading guilty voluntarily.
Yes.
If anyone's forcing you or pressuring you into pleading guilty, right? And you're going to tell me that you're pleading guilty voluntarily, you understand everything. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
No.
Okay. Let's go back in, okay?
Yes.
You can press on the bottom, verify that. The paralegals don't have jurisdiction to run these type of charges. Number one, okay? Number two, I absolutely understand where you are coming from. I'm not saying, look, at the end of the day, Wayne, the truth is this, I make more money if something goes to trial. So take this call for where I'm coming from the bottom of my heart. There's lawyers out there who would be very excited, saying, oh, great, let's make more money, run a trial, no problem, great. The only reason Brocasso and everybody cares, so you understand, is you need to understand your legal liability. Because obviously you have a beautiful family here, you got a beautiful partner, you know, you're trying to set your roots here. I get what you're saying in regards to the police corruption and all of the above. What we're also just making sure that you clearly understand is the risks that come with that. Even if you're bang on right, but the judge, who's part of the same system, as you can appreciate, for whatever reason, does not believe it or does not want to go after the cops for whatever reason, because at the end of the day, it happens far too often. I'm the legal expert, right? This is what we do for a living. So you can imagine I've seen a lot worse things happen. The only person that loses and faces serious immigration consequences is you.
Okay, I have a question.
Of course.
Okay, if he pleads whatever you're saying to plead, if after we can actually, because I have blatant proof, I'm actually right now, because they've lied on me with, and they want me to drop my case against them, because I have a human rights case because I've caught them in blatant lies. Right? And I said absolutely not, because they said we'll pay for the truck, we'll pay for your dogs to drop it for them, and I'm like, I don't care about money, I care about truth and honesty.
No, but you know what? You're an amazing person. I'm not.
No. This is my question.
Sure.
If Wayne does what you're saying, because I have blatant proof, can later on, right, we go after them and show that they have lied.
I mean, what you're doing, and obviously two things. Number one, obviously, I'm not a civil lawyer, right? Unfortunately, I don't do human rights, right? So
no, it would be a litigation lawyer. Yes, but it's not human rights, because I'm.
Which I don't do, so I can't give advice on that. But what I can tell you is, if it's a completely unrelated matter, but more importantly, if it has
It's the same, it's the same matter, actually. Rika refused to even investigate because they said our matter is exactly the same.
Sorry, Procasio said what then? Can you repeat that for me? Sorry, can you say that again?
Rika, I have emails. They refused to investigate the first time I told them what happened because they said, Wayne and I, it's the exact same matter. That's what they said by Rika. And it is the same matter.
It's the
And I've tried to even tell your lawyers it was the same matter and to listen to the whole overall view. And they said, no, it's not, the same.
It's if I plead guilty to the plea, it means I'm admitting everything that the police did was true. I'm saying that's true, but then that can never be brought up again, can it?
Again, because I don't do litigation, I can't give you advice on some sort of police misconduct. I don't know how that works, so I can't give you advice.
So how's this? He'll do what you say, but I will get a litigation lawyer, and then I will go after police misconduct.
I care about you and your partner.
Yeah, and that's what we'll do.
Honest to God,
in
situation, we could be a lot more aggressive. Do you understand what I mean? But at the end of the day, I'm only worried about your life and your future because you're only good. Especially if you're saying, Mustafa, look, I like this place. I want to stay here. This is what my goal is, right? Then this is what I'm trying to do to make sure you're okay. That's it.
Okay, he'll do what you say, but I'll get a litigation lawyer and then go after the police for setting up evidence and assaulting Wayne.
Litigation lawyer, I don't mind connecting with them and providing with any information that we can to help the situation out as well, right? But in regards to this reso, let's get this done and move on.
Do it, then if that's what he's saying, then I'll get a litigation lawyer and have the litigation lawyer look at the forged evidence and the assaults and how they perjured and lied themselves to police because it's ridiculous that anybody in Canada has to, well, I'll get a litigation lawyer after to
let these guys know we're good, okay?
Yeah, okay.
I'll get a litigation lawyer. I'll get a little because you're having. I could see the stress on you. And you do have post-traumatic stress disorder. I know it's all on you. Do it, and I'll get a litigation lawyer, and we'll go after it because look at all the evidence I found. What the police, Alton's getting away with setting up evidence on people.
That. The paralegals don't have jurisdiction to run these type of charges. Number one, okay? Number two, I absolutely understand where you are coming from. I'm not saying, look, at the end of the day, Wayne, the truth is this. I make more money if something goes to trial. So take this call for where I'm coming from the bottom of my heart. There's lawyers out there who would be very excited, saying, oh, great, let's make more money, run a trial, no problem, great. The only reason Procasio and everybody cares, so you understand, is you need to understand your legal liability. Because obviously you have a beautiful family here, you got a beautiful partner, you're trying to set your roots here. I get what you're saying in regards to the police corruption and all of the above. What we're also just making sure that you clearly understand is the risks that come with that. Even if you're bang on right, but the judge who's part of the same system, as you can appreciate, for whatever reason, does not believe it or does not want to go after the cops for whatever reason, because at the end of the day, it happens far too often. I'm the legal expert, right? This is what we do for a living. So you can imagine I've seen a lot worse things happen. The only person that loses and faces serious immigration consequences is you.
Okay, I have a question.
Of course.
Okay, if he pleads whatever you're saying to plead, if after we can actually, because I have blatant proof, I'm actually right now, because they've lied on me with, and they want me to drop my case against them, because I have...
What do you mean,
I have a human rights case because I've caught them in blatant lies. Right? And I said absolutely not, because they said we'll pay for the truck, we'll pay for your dogs to drop it for them, and I'm like, I don't care about money, I care about, truth and honesty.
No, but you're an amazing person. I'm not...
No, this is my question. If Wayne does what you're saying, because I have blatant proof, Ken, later on, right, we go after them and show that they have lied.
I mean, what you're doing here, and obviously two things. Number one, obviously, I'm not a civil lawyer, right? Unfortunately, I don't do human rights, right? So...
No, it would be a litigation lawyer. Yes, that it's not human rights, because I'm...
Which I don't do, so I can't give advice on that, but what I can tell you is, if it's a completely unrelated matter, but more importantly, if they have done...
It's the same matter, actually. Lika refused to even investigate because they said our matter is exactly the same.
Sorry, Bocacho said what then? Can you repeat that for me? Sorry, can you say that again?
Lika, I have emails. They refused to investigate the first time I told them what happened because they said, Wayne and I, it's the exact same matter. That's what they said by Lika. And it is the same matter. And I've tried to even tell your lawyers it was the same matter and to listen to the whole overall view. And they said, no, it's not, the same.
It's if I plead guilty to the plea, it means I'm admitting everything that the police did was true. I'm saying that's true, but then that can never be brought up again, can it?
Again, because I don't do litigation, I can't give you advice on some sort of police misconduct. I don't know how that works, so I can't give you advice.
So how's this? He'll do what you say, but I will get a litigation lawyer, and then I will go after police misconduct.
I care about you and your partner.
Yeah, and that's what we'll do.
Honest to God, in a situation, we could be a lot more aggressive. Do you understand what I mean? But at the end of the day, I'm only worried about your life and your future because you're only good. Especially if you're saying, Mustafa, look, I like this place. I want to stay here. This is what my goal is, right? Then this is what I'm trying to do to make sure you're okay. That's it.
Okay, he'll do what you say, but I'll get a litigation lawyer and then go after the police for setting up evidence and assaulting Wayne.
Litigation lawyer, I don't mind connecting with them and providing with any information that we can to help the situation out as well, right? But in regards to this reso, let's get this done and move on.
Do it, then if that's what he's saying, then I'll get a litigation lawyer and have the litigation lawyer look at the forged evidence and the assaults and how they perjured and lied themselves to police, because it's ridiculous that anybody in Canada has to. Well, I'll get a litigation lawyer after to
I'm gonna let these guys know we're good, okay?
Yeah, okay.
I'll get a litigation lawyer. I'll get a little, because you're having, I could see the stress on you. You do have post-traumatic stress disorder. I know it's all on you. Do it, and I'll get a litigation lawyer, and we'll go after it, because look at all the evidence I've found with the police. Alton's getting away with setting up evidence on people.
The paralegal is on Zoom, and he's asking if you can also turn your camera on, because it looks like the court staff might try and kick you out if you don't have the camera on.
I thought it was on.
How do we do that?
Right. It's asking stop video. It's not saying that it's off. It's just muted, so it should be on.
Got it. And do you see the court staff? There should be like a little line at the bottom. It might say the courtroom number.
Duty counsel and Smith, that's what it's on at the moment.
Got it. And where the judge is speaking, do you see where her name is? Maybe that one has like a courtroom number also?
I keep going back to counsel, to duty counsel, just go to that.
Are you on your...
It's A. Crawford, the right honourable Justice J.A. Crawford. There is no number.
Got it, okay. Okay, I'm gonna let the paralegal know, but just to confirm, are you on your phone on
Yeah,
Zoom, or
I can see me. I can see the judge.
Maybe if you press your picture, would it give you options? I'm just wondering, there must be a way to...
She's gone. No.
No problem. I'm just making sure that it's in the right courtroom, so...
Yeah.
Yep, okay, so it looks like Judge Crawford is the one. So, maybe she just can't see you, but if you think that your camera is on, don't worry about that. Once they call you, or once they call her, they might ask you to turn it on, and at that point we can worry about it then, but it might be that you are right, that the camera is on, okay?
She's kicking people out if she can't see them. She's giving nobody any chances, so now I'm a bit worried. Maybe I should try and go I'm on the home internet, it's rubbish, and I'm running out of data on my phone, so I haven't got much option.
No problem. It's okay. We'll go with it as is, because if you haven't been kicked out yet, then that might be it. The return is probably on. I would say just wait for when you're called, okay?
Can she not speak to you first?
Can she see you? Like, can you see Wayne right now?
I'm actually communicating with the paralegal who's doing this claim.
I was told the paralegal couldn't do this by Mustafa.
You know what it is? It might be because of the name, so that's okay.
Is it not Bashar doing this?
Prakash is actually in a trial right now, so...
Well, so what Mustafa you said was a pack of lies then?
No,
That's not Mustafa.
Who just rang me up?
I'm sorry?
Who did you get to ring me up?
Mustafa, yeah.
That don't look like Mustafa.
No, they're not on the phone. This
No,
is
sorry, did Mustafa say that he was doing it himself?
No, he said that Bashar was doing it.
Well, she's the lawyer on record, so how it works is that when the court is hearing these pleas, because it's already decided, they don't actually have to go in and argue this. They get paralegals to come in, and then paralegals are the agents of the lawyers, and they will put the record in front of the judge or the justice of peace. They'll go through those records, they'll hear you out if there's any issues, and then that's essentially it. If there's anything that's beyond what an agent does, that's when a lawyer gets involved.
Why does it say mine is small? I'm just trying to figure out...
That's the internet.
Okay, I was just trying to... The internet's close now. I'm just trying to figure out how can we get these... Okay, I just want to figure out how can we get...
Okay, no worries.
Alright, okay, well, let's think then. Alright, super.
There should be a paralegal in here for me.
Commissioner Matter on M15, and it's been traversed here.
I'm not sure the 115 is, I'm afraid, sorry.
Oh, Wayne Donahue, I see it. It's coming here too? Okay. Yes. And sir, do you have a lawyer? Or you have a...
There should be a paralegal there.
From stuff.
From what the law.
Okay, we'll just wait for them. But I see I know what your daughter is about. Okay, she's ready to go lunch.
Okay.
Okay, I will get her on her.
Shall I mute for now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Line, if he can identify himself.
Yeah, I'm Wayne Donahue.
Thank you. We're going to traverse you at B11. I can assist you right away. So check your Zoom details in the chat function and the courtroom will be there. So traverse to B11 for resolution. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Palmer, good morning. What matters do you have?
That's just to put trial dates on the record. That's 156 and 159.
Mustafa's, they never looked at it. The thing, immediately after they got the money, they still to this day have never looked at the evidence and said plead guilty. So they want you to plead guilty under duress? I want to look at something.
I'm only guilty by circumstance. If you knew the case and looked at the videos and stuff, there's a massive case of police corruption and planting evidence.
And we have proof.
And having looked into it more, this thing should have been tossed out. I'm not saying that I wasn't over the limit, but I was let out of jail. I wasn't told that I couldn't drive, and I only drove because you'd taken away, or the police had taken away my partner's dog,
Emotional support
dog, so she asked me to drive. Then within minutes of being released, we got pulled over and
they never gave you a sobriety test in the morning, and
they didn't do anything,
and they went with the Freedom of Information to show that they didn't give him the sobriety test. And I actually have evidence that they fabricated, digital evidence that they fabricated between my video caught on the scene, between their videos. There's a lot of, they've been caught on a lot of eyes just digitally.
If I plead guilty to the plea, the reduced sentence, it means everything they said was true, and they haven't been corrupt where they have, and they've planted evidence. The photographs they took when at the scene were taken hours and hours later at the pound where the vehicle was.
And my video captures, there was the walkie-talkie there, and my video captures that we told Constable Underwood, and what they did was she went back over an hour later, took away the walkie-talkie, which I can prove was there by my video, and set up the fabrication of evidence. And then Sergeant Underwood, who assaulted Wayne right on video, and then the police station would have the second assault on their tape, he went back when the truck was in the impound. It was impounded. Put back the walkie-talkie. It doesn't correspond.
It doesn't correspond to the videos or the timings or anything. So if I plead guilty to, even though it's a reduced sentence in a plea, it means everything I said is true, which is not true. So
what I'm gonna do now is I'm probably gonna get you to talk to Mustafa. Okay, Mustafa. All I can say at the moment is that this, the lawyer who was working on this is saying, in her opinion, this is the best deal possible.
That lawyer,
just because of those visa issues.
that lawyer,
That you have your side.
we will read
What I'm
that.
gonna do is I'm gonna ask Mustafa to give you a call now. As you know, your plea is actually supposed to be happening, I think, probably right now. So it's a bit of an urgent matter, right? For you to have it all
I have a question.
be on the line, okay? See if Mustafa can possibly help in any way.
yeah, I'm actually on the Zoom now. I was expecting one of you people to talk to me before anything happens.
So she's there. I think the paralegal there might need to go in person. So that's why probably it's taking a bit. But don't have your video up just yet. They'll probably call the paralegal first, and then she'll say who she's there for. But be on the line on your phone. I'm gonna hang up and I'm gonna text Mustafa to give you a call. Okay?
So you want me to close the Zoom?
No. Just keep Zoom on. Just don't turn on the video or the call until you're asked to do that, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So just stay with your phone. I'm gonna get Mustafa to give you a call now. Okay? Awesome. Thank you.
ask her this, ask your staff that if you plead guilty then, which you're not, right? Because Ms. Staffel's law, they never look at anything. They wouldn't look at, they didn't look at anything. If then after, right, it can be brought up in court then, the proof that they've forged evidence. That's what you need to ask.